Huh? Child, the first time we were on YouTube, we had people in there constantly talking to us. Last time we did it, wasn't nobody on YouTube. Oh, yeah,
Oh, good. You know something over there? Trying to I don't think it was probably right. Like,
I was like, better take a picture for that one. If that one took a picture too, I'm a gag. Like, bitch, don't do that. Okay.
Not even a second.
There we go. We are on both. No matter how bright we make it, YouTube is still like, no, bitch, that's still dark.
Oh, that was YouTube?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to THS Live. I am Sensei Raven Eklundayo.
I'm Brandon Harris Williams.
So, this is a live version of Black, Queer, and Unapologetic. I figure it's probably best for us to go around and introduce everybody. So you can, what's the best way to do this? Share your name, what it is you do, share your name, share what your passion is, share your name, top, bottom. I'm joking. I'm joking.
He's not.
If you're out there looking, we don't know. It's a lot of single men in the room, I do believe. So half of the room.
Not all. There we go.
I didn't say all.
It's literally half the room. That's funny thing.
What do you do it?
Come on. 20 will.
Totally wrong.
Not that you counting though.
I can't.
Right. Which is very important. We want to make sure that we shout out our new sponsor.
Yeah.
This is Libation, everybody. Made by that awesome brother back there, Mr. Sean Antonio.
Yes, sir.
So, if you make sure you check out the next episode of of THS Podcast, which is Black, Queer, and Unapologetic, we're going to give you all this information. And at the end, we make sure that he'll share the information as well, so you can make sure you get these awesome drinks. I'm taking like 2 more sips and then I'm going to be done.
Just 2 more. He's not lying.
Hey, Jay. Hey, Chris.
That's all he needs.
Hello.
Where these pouches come from. Exactly. Listen, but you need to come down to Atlanta and get you some. Right.
Yes, get you some.
Hey, Chris.
Okay, so you know what? To keep it open and without rules, say your name and anything you want to share. How about that? So we'll start with Brandon and go all the way around.
Hi, I am Brandon. My birthday is in January. My favorite color is orange. I am a Capricorn. I love beach. I am from Baltimore. That's it.
Okay. That was elaborate. I love it.
He said, well, the person go first and they give this small list. She's like, shit, now
Right.
How did we mess up today?
So my name is Kennedy.
Hi, Kennedy.
Hey.
Into the head.
I'm originally from New York, Brooklyn, Maryland.
Come on, Maryland. Listen, same thing. It's a thing.
To follow up Brandon. My favorite color is purple. I'm a singer. Sing some for us. That's it. And yeah, that's all you get today. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, no. That's all you get today.
Well, I am Sean Antonio, everybody. I am a bartender.
Libation.
I am an Atlanta native, and currently on my 3rd year of Mandarin studies.
Come on.
That's Mandarin.
Show out.
Okay.
Yes, God.
My black is smart.
I'm not.
Presumably.
Put it down.
No. What's the picture? I'm Manny. I'm from here.
Not from here.
Did you say I'm Manny? I'm from here.
I'm from here.
Where's her? Where's her?
I'm not doing this.
Okay.
That's what we're doing. That's it.
Okay. That's it. I'm Manny. That's it.
It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse, man.
Listen.
It's going to get worse.
I'm Kai, everybody. Hi. I'm 31, Libra, and my favorite color is aubergine.
Fancy ass bitch.
Right.
I'm like, I
Come on, Elvis.
It's cute on the walls, okay?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yes.
Be clear.
Yes, we play it well. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, this drink is good. I'm sorry.
Yes, come through.
Yes. I'm sorry.
I'm Danye.
Hi, Danye.
I'm from Philly. Brandon and I just got here from New York like probably 3 hours ago.
They
Um,
wanted to take the trip down the street.
yeah, we want to take a trip down the
You
street.
got the house.
Yeah.
Voila.
Come through.
Okay, so Chris is saying a lot. Let's see what Chris is saying. Hey, Mr. Speaking to the mic. I can't. Then he said, he said that color was bougie. My favorite color is fluorescent beige.
Yeah.
Yes, fluorescent beige. Yes, precious.
Yes.
Okay, so for those,
I got it.
okay, so here's what we're going to do. I believe I saw Sean and Brandon both enter the chat room. So if y'all could, so I don't have to keep stressing my eyes. Can y'all read off like? Because I'm like, I don't want to keep getting it. Okay, so the topic that we're going to be talking about today is actually what we're going to be talking about on the next episode of the podcast, which is, of course, our 5th Black, Queer, and Unapologetic. And that is, how are you? So, again, as you're going to see when we're having our discussion on the Black, Queer, and Unapologetic episode, we talk about, you know, the unfortunate suicides that take place, and especially in the Black, queer community. And so we want to know how you're doing. Those of you who are watching, those of us who are in the room, how are we really? And I posted on Facebook earlier in the week asking people, if you're going to ask somebody, how are you? For it to not just be this knee-jerk thing that you say, where you feel like you have to say, how are you? And then you really don't want an answer back. Ask, how are you? And mean it. And actually be willing to be open to hearing what the person has to say, whether it's bad or good. So I wanted us to have a conversation about this with each other and also with all of you misfits who are listening. So this isn't going to be like, you know, how usually when you hear Black, Queer, and Unapologetic, and I'm like moderating, this question for you, this question for you. I want to just be open. So, you know, as long as we're not talking over each other, I'm not going to say who can speak, everybody just talk. So with that being said, how are you guys who are watching right now? Be as open as possible, you know. This is a safe space, as the healing space always is. There is no judgment. Talk to us about how you're feeling. We'll make sure to talk back with you. And then it's just a conversation with us. So I guess the first question that I'll ask to all of you, and that we can just openly converse, is if, for those of you who feel comfortable with talking about it, have any of you ever thought of suicide, and what has it looked like for you?
I'll jump right in. I not only thought about suicide, but I had 2 failed attempts.
Mhm.
The first time I was 17, and I had the tendency then, and I still do now, to be a perfectionist. At the time, it was because I wanted to make up for what I thought were shortcomings at the time in terms of my queerness. So in order to make up for that, I had to excel at everything. I think now it stems from a place of wanting to do myself proud as much as possible. So at the time I was 17, I was a senior in high school. I was like the class president and a part of like every organization that we had at my school. And I was literally running myself then. And again, it was to make up for what I thought was the shortcoming in terms of my queerness. And it became too much where I tried to commit suicide. I had a very real conversation with my parents just about why, about where I was. And that was the first time when I really realized what community looked like and the power of, or rather the power in speaking up about what you're going through and not existing in a space of silence. So that was 17. And then a very similar circumstance, my husband Brandon and I were working on a web series, our first web series, on top of creating a nonprofit. So it was a lot of things going on. And I'm now saying, I'm realizing it was a pattern that I was getting myself into, of really working myself like ragged to the point where I didn't even know I was anymore. And this was, I want to say maybe 25. I tried to commit suicide again. And it was, again, working myself ragged, and then also with that, not thinking I was good enough. Really listening to and believing the conditioning that society put in my head in terms of my queerness, in terms of my blackness, and unlike my 17-year-old self, also at this time, when I was 25 and tried to commit suicide the second time, I was also HIV positive. So like these things just really just manifested in my head, and it got to a point when I really didn't think I had anybody to talk to, and I think that was the overarching thing for both. I didn't think I had anybody to talk to, but now knowing that being vocal, and I love where we are right now in terms of a society where self-care and people are actively seeking therapists and talking about therapy. And like I know now exists in a space where I have folks to talk to, and if I do get into certain spaces, I don't have to keep it all in myself, right? But yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. You actually, something you touched on earlier on my follow-up question, but I'll do it after more people talk about this specific topic. Anybody else with? Okay.
I appreciate you being as open as you were with your previous situations and your triumphs over what you were going through. There was a point in time in my life where I was there, so I can relate. Mine didn't exactly go the same as yours. It was a lot of, I think I was about 24, and with my family and friends, I was doing a lot of asking for help. I was asking, but it didn't seem like anybody was taking me seriously. So, you know, I literally looked at every option before, and it didn't seem like there was any way out. But the next morning, when I actually did still wake up, I realized that maybe that wasn't supposed to happen, despite everybody responding to me. So I really had to reach deep within myself to find that strength, because I still, even at the time after attempting, still felt like I had nobody. So just like you said when we started, when you ask somebody how they're doing, be open to the answer. Dissect the answer if possible, and try to look beyond the words that they're actually using, because it may be a lot more.
Speak. Yeah. So in that space where you felt like there wasn't anyone showing up for you, you ended up showing up for yourself.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Anybody else want to touch on that specific question, or?
I was gonna say mine would be like, piggybacking, kind of sort of from Danya and Sean's perspectives. I've actually had a few attempts to try to take my own life, and it stemmed from the time I was 11. I'll never forget it. The very first time my mom, she called me a faggot. That was her exact word. It made me feel not even just less of a man or less of a boy at that time. It made me feel like the scum of the earth. It made so many things run in and out of my mind. And every day that she would, that I would look at her after that, I'm like, is this really my mom, or is this, just someone I'm, cohabiting with, and it's just like, I don't know. I'm sorry, cohabitating. So it really made me look at things differently, within myself, and me trying to figure out who it is that I am, how strong can I be to endure these things, and I was like, wow, it broke me down. I'm just like, I'm so smart, I'm so this, I'm so that, I'm such an outgoing person, but at the same time, it takes that one person to break you down like this, like, wow, and me thinking that at that age, it made me mature, much faster than what I would have hoped, so when when most guys would go out, and play sports with other guys, I would be educating myself on certain things. I'll be reading certain things and, just learning certain things about me and what can I do to tap into how can I not commit suicide? How can I not do certain things to not piss my mom off so she won't call me a faggot or, a gay, or everything that she was saying to me felt like it was daggers being thrown at me. You know, like I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but I'm pretty sure you can. We're talking about this, and being able to open up to someone, like what Sean was saying, you have no one to to reach out to. You have to build that strength within yourself. And being chastised like that, it made me want to be DL. It made me want to be not who I am. Piggybacking on what you were saying, Danye. I'm just like, wow. Like, how can I find a channel, find a way for me to speak to the world, or find someone else who to speak to other than God. Because that's all I had at that time. And it took me a long time to figure out, hey, you know what? You're bigger and better than this. You know what I mean? Like it's an ignorance for people, in my opinion. People don't have to agree with this, but in my eyes, it's an ignorance. For someone to chastise someone based on their orientation or whatever it is that they practice, their religion, whatever the case may be. People have feelings. People, gain complexes, and for you to be there for them to reach out to you, I think that's important. Be more than just an open ear. Have an open heart, have an open mind. I think that's very important.
Very agree. Yeah. Come on. Okay. So, next question. And I want to preface this by saying that not all Black households are the same, and not all Black queer experiences are the same. So I want to say that first.
Can you say that again?
Again, not all Black households are the same, not all Black and queer experiences are the same. So I'm going to preface by saying that. If somebody could read Lonnie's statement to me really quick before I ask.
Oh, she's asking if they can hear us. Nobody's saying yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lonnie's.
Oh, she said something else.
Yeah, so please tell me his mommy got her shit together.
Okay, yeah, so Lonnie said, did your mother get your shit together? Her shit together? Are y'all in a better place?
We're closer than what we were, but there are times where I'll like say certain things and I can tell that she has that uncomfortableness in her spirit. She doesn't want to, I can't go to her and talk to her about a lover or, anything that has anything related to do with homosexuality. She shuns it. She completely just wants to disregard me and just like, oh, okay, she'll literally change the subject.
Wow.
Last time being on her birthday, February 6th of this year, I took her out to eat, and it was she, my grandmother, and I, and I mentioned something. She used to have a transgender best friend. His name was Miss Peaches. Her name is Miss Peaches. I was. And I'm just like, how do you befriend a transgender, but you shun your son, who has been there for you? More so than your other children. You know what I'm saying? I'm there for my mom, no matter what. And I'm just like, really, lady, you attack? I'm your eldest child of that, and it just hurts. How can you do that to someone you gave birth to? Who cares who I sleep with? As long as I'm healthy and I'm good and I'm happy, like that should be the most important things. Parents need to think about what it is they shun their kids, or how it is they shun their kids, why it is they shun their kids, and they need to think about their happiness at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You don't have to lay down with your child. You know what I mean? Sorry for speaking frankly, but it is what it is.
What's y'all?
Right. The way you worded it wasn't even frank. So
Right.
It is what it is. But to answer your question, yes, that was the last time, and it still hits a certain spot. Yeah, exactly. When she does it, I see that 11-year-old in me. I see that 15-year-old in me, that 17-year-old in me, and I'm just like, wow. It takes me back to a dark, gloomy place. And I don't like it. I wish things could be different, but you can't change certain people. I can love you, but
from a distance.
Right.
For you and your space of healing, I would say you have to go inside yourself and talk to that little kid and let him know who you are now. Because who you are now is not the reflection of how she's treated you. And even if that is her and how she feels about your lifestyle, that has nothing to do with you. I promise.
Everything to do with her.
Everything to do with her.
Long as says
Even with her having a transgender friend, that's because that's something that's disconnected from her. She can be a friend of somebody who she has no relationship with, but to birth someone that is hers, her blood, and her dealing with that, that's all it is. So don't take that on, because that's not yours. That's not yours to carry at all.
And you know what, additionally, this was the 15-year-old part of me. She said to me, we were riding in the car one time, we were coming from Target, and she said something about gays have something wrong with them. She said there should be no reason why a man should be walking around like a sissy. That's literally what she said to me. And so that right there led me to not even want to play sports anymore. You know, I felt even less of a man, and I was just like, wow, like, you know, and there was a buildup of her chastising and, you know, her making comments and just like everything under the sun that you could imagine. And I wrote so many poems about my hurt and my grief and, you know, who it was that I thought she was to me at that given time. You know, it was like a monster in your closet, you know, type thing. And I'm just like, you know, this is supposed to be my mom. And this is how I feel about this woman. You know what I mean? And
Real quick. Not to
go
cut
ahead.
you off.
No, I'm sorry.
Two things. One, you have to understand that she's operating out of legacy and ignorance.
I
So
agree.
this is what it is that she was taught. This is what it is that she knows, and she hasn't necessarily made an attempt to move out of that space. You know, people operate differently with blood than they do with friends because there's a disconnect. I can separate who you are because you're not my blood. You know, so you are who you are. You keep it pushing. You know, but you are my family.
Coming to my
You know.
You are my
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I always say to people in those types of relationships to have a certain level of empathy. Wrong she is, this is true. But have a certain level of empathy because that's what opens up the door to a dialogue that may change things in the future. So the second thing I was wanting to say to you is that when you get to the point, it doesn't have to be now or tomorrow, but when you get to a point where you feel comfortable enough to do so, please read her your poems. It's very important for her to know.
They're in her attic.
Yeah.
They are.
Listen.
Along with my military clothes and then some other stuff.
That's almost a whole scenario in itself. That your pain is in her attic. Listen.
That's what.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
That should be a
Let me
quote.
above my head.
That should be a quote.
Listen. Okay, so we're gonna move on. I have to reiterate what I said earlier because we're so far removed from that now. So I preface this by saying that no Black household is the same, and not all Black queer experiences are the same. Who in here has sought therapy before, and who doesn't believe in it? So who doesn't believe in it? Raise your hand.
I'm sorry, read the one.
Who doesn't believe in therapy?
Oh, I definitely believe it.
Now, who has actually sought therapy before?
I have. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so for those of us who have sought therapy, if we can just talk really quickly, what did it look like for you?
Okay, can I start?
Wait, one second.
Oh.
I'm only gonna say no because you were the last person to answer for the last.
Gotcha.
So let's open up the floor to, okay.
Okay. What did it look like? I thought it looked like what TV presents to you. I thought you go in and they ask you a bunch of questions and they try to fix you. And that's completely opposite of my experience. I actually had a Caucasian lady who had recently been divorced maybe like 2 years before I met her, who was married to a man and now is married to a woman who has a daughter. I said, oh, I'm home. Because I wanted someone who was open and available to the possibilities of what I can bring to her. Or him. And I don't know if I would have met a Black man to be that open. Not saying it's not possible.
Right.
So in that experience, I came out the womb to where I was. Yeah, I was back in 2011. So what it looked like was me getting all that anger and hurt for my mom and my father out of me. Everything that I had thought was my fault was not. and she realigned that. She gave me tools to fix and believe in the person that I am in that moment will push me to today. Yeah. So yeah.
Brandon?
Mine is fairly brief. I was in college and we had free therapy on campus. I don't really remember all the particulars. I just remember going in to my first meeting. It was a Black woman, and I just remember her saying something that was really off-putting. I don't think it was necessarily about like how I presented on my sexuality and thing, but she just said something like, "This ain't for me," or maybe "This ain't for me right now," so I'm just going to bounce, and then I went back. But I was talking to my best time about everything, because for me it was more so I just need to get this shit off my chest, and I don't want to be judged, and I also don't want you to like jump in the middle of me telling everything that I'm trying to get off. I just really need to dump on somebody, and I had a friend who was willing to let me dump all of like childhood trauma, really strong friend, dump all my trauma on. I am like in the process of looking for a therapist now, just so I can do some more dumping. Because I just need to get the shit out.
Right.
It's like, I just want to
Release.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Come on, expunge. Yes. Mine, in a way, sounds and looked a lot like yours. For me, I believe that my therapist didn't necessarily know how to navigate what my situation was. I was a Black queer 23-year-old going into a space with a heterosexual East Indian man, having a conversation about my trauma through friendship, not family. He expected the minute I told him that I was gay, that we're about to have, okay, this is a conversation about your family, I accepted you, blah, blah. I was like, no, they're perfect. That's not it at all. Like, I'm good on that. Like, my thing is, as I've talked to you about ad nauseum, is the whole situation of friendship, trust, and things of that nature. He didn't really know how to navigate that at all. And it got to the point where after a couple of months, I was like, there's nothing happening here. You're not telling me anything that my friends who I do trust haven't told me already. Nothing my mother hasn't told me already. So I ended up not going anymore. Now, again, this is me in my early 20s. Who knows what me in therapy with a different therapist will look like today, But that experience was one where I ended up just tapping into my faith stronger. I was like, okay, this doesn't work for me. Not to say it doesn't work, it's worked for me, but for me, my story ended up going in a faith-based direction. But just like when it comes to college, when I talk to people about therapists, I'm like, it may have not necessarily been my thing, but I absolutely believe that if you feel like you should try it, you should. Definitely. Your story isn't mine, my story isn't yours. It could look totally different,
I think that's the important thing too. Like both of you were saying, you went to someone and it wasn't your experience or wasn't what you needed, at least at that time. I think so many people will go and it's like, okay, this isn't for me. And sometimes, a lot of times, you might see that particular therapist. I say that they're bad, they're just not the fit for you. And I think a lot of people will give up on it because similar to you, I went before in college and then it was a one-time thing, and I was like, I don't really feel comfortable if something was off. And not nothing that she did. I just wasn't very comfortable with myself. And so I didn't go back. And so I'm semi-looking, not really looking.
He's not saying at all.
Passively
Right, he's not looking at all.
It's called passively looking.
I like doing a little bit
As it
more like,
passes you by.
oh,
Ask for somebody that has never my family, we didn't talk about therapy. It's all church. So you pray about it and get over it. For somebody that hasn't been introduced to that, what would one expect? You know what I'm saying? Like, what difference would I get from? And I know it's different for everybody.
Absolutely.
But what can I expect from because I have thought about, seeking what would a lot of questions. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. When I think about it, they don't know me, but you know what I'm saying? I'm like, what would I expect?
It's their job to get to know you. It's their
Absolutely.
job to ask open-ended questions so that you feel comfortable with delving and diving from one
So that they
to
can
another.
therapize you.
Yeah, so they can figure out what drives you.
because my understanding of it, I'm sorry, but is that it really helps you to figure out for yourself. It's kind of like thinking out loud. He said dumping on people. It's they'll ask you open-ended question and then you kind of make a realization on your own. I think some might kind of help you reframe things more, but a lot of them I think it's just you figure out yourself better.
You're basically paying somebody to detail your thought process.
And
I
also
like that.
to speak back to you what it is that you're saying. As a life coach, one of the things they taught us, very much like therapists, is that, which I get out of a whole lot, I have to remind myself to go back to it, because I just want to solve stuff. But I'm like, okay, no. We're taught like therapists that we're supposed to say back to you what it is that you're saying to us.
Right.
So you're like, I've had a very depressed day and I feel sad. So you feel depressed.
Why
Okay.
listen?
Listen.
Why is that?
Wow. Right.
Yes, it is.
I think with me is I feel like I got it figured out. And I know that's not the case.
Right.
Only because you go to God, you pray, this is what I heard, but something's just not connected.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think therapy would be really beneficial on that level.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Like to kind of help me detangle those thoughts, to help me figure out what it is I'm saying, what I'm
Right.
feeling. You know what I'm saying? To help me work my way through it.
Yeah. And like the conversation has been saying, it's like, can I compare it to shoes and I know some of the shoes? No, because I can fit your shoes, so that's not right. Not all therapists will fit for you.
Right.
Each of them are different.
Right.
So as Brandy was saying, just because you go to one and it may not fit. then you
It's
go to
to
somebody
me, it's
else.
an energy thing.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
an energy thing.
Yes.
You have to, it has to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And sometimes that feeling doesn't come, well, to me, it comes when you walk that door and you sit down and you have that conversation.
You gotta have
You
that.
feel if it's right for you. And if it's not right for you, then you don't go back to that person.
Right.
Yes. I agree with that. I'm big on energy. So.
Right.
Is it possible to, you said that, not every therapist fits for a person, but is there a type of person that does not fit for therapy?
That's a good question.
Because I can tell you, I'm asking for me, because literally, I had a therapist, I think when I was 14, right after my father passed away. Right when I was 18, my grandmother who raised me passed away. And then I tried it again last year. None of them worked. Not that I'm not open to it, but I don't know, maybe it's a built-in resentment, or
I was gonna say,
haven't gotten the
I was
person
gonna say, I
that-
would challenge you. Maybe subconsciously you don't want it.
That could be the case.
Because if you can be consciously like, this is what I know I need to go, but subconsciously you're like,
Being
It's
resistant.
because you have to be open yourself, because they can't pull things.
yeah,
out.
you have to be open. You have to
I'm
be,
looking for the person that has the ability to pull those things.
but see, you gotta be able to be that person who pull it out of yourself.
It's teamwork.
Yeah,
They're
they're working for you,
Mm.
They're not working. You're not working for them. For
Yeah.
you.
So how do you prepare yourself for that? You know what I'm saying?
You
Because
have to
like you
be-
say, like, I don't need no therapy.
I mean,
I'm good.
I didn't
afraid
know
about
that.
it.
Definitely
But I'm
not
saying,
Hold on, girl. Hold on.
But I'm saying for somebody that says, I don't need no therapy, I'm good.
How do you?
How do you
get them.
if somebody says, try therapy, how do you get to the point where you say, okay, let me get.
Well, okay. I'm gonna give you
Discipline.
I'm going to give you an example of what happened to me as a life coach.
Okay.
As a life coach, I had a journey of having somebody. This was actually when I lived in New York, Brandon. I had somebody who came to me.
I was responding.
I was fine for you.
You own it, just so we gave him the job. You gave him the job.
No.
Yeah, I'm doing my
Right.
job.
Wait,
Well, because I can't type money, that's what my
pause,
group.
pause. Y'all all took it the wrong way. I lived in New York with you. Right. So you're the person to point to.
No,
Don't
it
all
was
took
just
it the
fun
wrong way.
interaction. We weren't taking it wrong.
So what I was saying is that as a life coach, I've had people who came to me and I ended up having to lead them to a therapist, but I was their beginning. There are certain things that as a life coach I'm able to do that a therapist can't. We're supposed to be the friendly therapist, We can have those kind of conversations that as therapists, they're not supposed to have with you, They're not supposed to divulge a lot of their personal life and things of that nature. It's all about getting you.
From my experience with you, it's more open with you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And less, I don't want to say judgmental, but it's like, I can be myself. Just
Right.
like how we're doing right now.
Yeah.
You know?
I can lay down my guard.
And then, right.
Exactly.
And then
You need a life
So it's not like that with the therapist though? Because that sounds intimidating. I can't be myself.
It's
Well,
more
I
personal. It's more personal.
I think it goes back to what he was saying about, I think it depends on the therapist and like your relationship with the
Right,
therapist.
and
I have a friend who was
yeah.
like seriously into like mental health and self-care.
Yeah.
And he lets me know like he can't have any therapist regardless of like what the resources are if they don't click. Like,
Right.
free therapists, paid
Right.
therapists, like, we don't click, then,
We ain't quick.
like,
Right.
These
These are plenty
these
of
coins
coins
don't
on
hit,
it,
girl.
and
Right.
people know multiple times. It takes a minute before you might get comfortable, before you can open up.
Right.
It's really building that relationship, setting the foundation.
Yeah. But also it's about your own self growth. You have to be ready for what you're about to experience. Yeah, but what's inside, because what you have covered up, pushed under the rug, put in the back of your mind, is going to come up.
Right.
So you have to be ready for that.
Face that, yeah.
Basically facing yourself. And if you're not ready to face yourself, you're not ready for nothing.
Yeah.
Life coach junior. Right.
So did you have a question for everybody? Or?
I did not know.
Okay. Okay. I'm like, it's co-hosting, so I want to make sure that
I do want to say something because I did raise my hand earlier. I do that in group setting just so everybody's aware that I have something to say. And that's my polite way of not being loud and just over speaking somebody. But you had said something earlier, and I'm really fishing for it. You were like, I got everything figured out, even though I know I don't. And I think that is like a really common thing with a lot of folks. Like, girl, I got this all figured out, even though I know, like, I need help. But like the fact that I know I need help, I'm not going to actually actively go and do it. It's a lot of, I just want to say that.
Pride.
I just think
Pride and passiveness.
it doesn't always be something that's wrong. A lot of times it can just be like you're saying, just going to get something off your chest. Just have somebody who can listen. Because I mean, there's a lot of mental illness. A lot of people struggle with things. Sometimes it's literally just to get this out. It doesn't have to be, I need you to fix me.
Right. It goes to the word crazy. I despise that word. Only because I was in a situation where it was always used. And crazy doesn't mean that you're actively crazy. They may not understand where you are. Right. So, or understand how or what you're feeling. So it's crazy to them. So they reject it. So don't take on that word or any word that somebody projects onto you, because that's how they feel. Right. So you just have to be open to you. You open to you,
And just to be clear, I don't have it all figured out. I'm a jumbled mess. I know that.
We all are.
Yes.
So,
Hello.
I'm just saying. I'm not gonna think I got it all together.
And Ayala.
Right.
Listen, Joe. Okay.
Actually, your person is not at your scale.
Very true.
Gail ain't a mess.
Miss King.
Gail ain't a mess.
No,
Gail ain't, she got a
Oh, yeah, right.
She's a mess. Gail ain't.
Okay, so Lonnie said you have to be open and willing to be exposed. Amen.
Boom.
Amen to that.
Glory.
That's good, Lonnie.
She's been coming.
So you will see Brandon check Manny's bag frequently, because as it gets lower,
He said he was done drinking.
I said I wasn't
Come on,
drinking,
Sean.
but as
Yes,
you
you
can see.
Oh, wait.
See, I think Sean's prepared.
Right.
Thomas is built.
Okay, so
Right.
so to shift a little bit, I mean, even though we're laughing at everything, so it's not like it's been this deep, depressing type conversation, but just to shift a little bit to something a little happier. What does happiness look like for all of you?
Don't like the word.
You don't like the word?
Talk about it.
I've learned not to like the word because I think about is happiness is, yes, it's a choice you wake up to it, but happiness is something that can, in some shape or form, be determined by something else. I take joy.
Mm-hmm.
Give me joy. I love joy, and I can find joy in everything that I'm doing for me, everything that I want to happen for me. So yeah.
I thought he was going somewhere else because recently I heard happiness is, well, no, which made me think of what I was going to say. That's why. No, recently I heard happiness is like a byproduct of something else. So happiness isn't necessarily something you can attain. It's that you get it from, like, say you achieve this goal, and then happiness comes from that. So I think that's not to necessarily answer what my happiness is, but to say that that's something that I heard like recently about what happiness is and what it looks like, is that it comes.
Now, see, I've seen that. I disagree. And I disagree only in my own experience. So I'm not saying that for everybody else, it's not joy is. For me, like when I explain jazz to people, I tell people, okay, if you're going to start up jazz, start with somebody like Kenny G. I call him the starter kid of jazz. Start really simple with Kenny G, and then you make your way to a Miles Davis or a John Coltrane. You don't just jump into greatness, you know?
Yes.
No shade, Kendrick.
Are you sure?
Right.
You don't just jump into greatness. You start with something that's a little less. Because that was subtext.
Yeah.
But so for me, that's happiness. Happiness is what you start with. Happiness is the beginning. I wake up happy, you know. I'm a joy-filled person, but I had to work towards being full of joy, you know. Happiness has been my default for a very, very long time. You know, I wake up and I'm happy, but it's also the easier thing to be taken away. My joy is not. You know?
Wow.
I received that. I received that. Yeah, you did that.
That's all I'm good. Right.
That's what you got for
Mary Poppins.
That's just like Mary Poppins. I have several.
What was the original question?
Look, when they start your shit. Don't start your shit.
Need a marker.
Yeah.
But no, like happiness, like I'm for you, just like you. I get up and I'm just happy. It doesn't matter what's going on. I can turn darkness into light in a matter of seconds. But people I've met come along lines past whatever the case may be, have been like, you can't be, nobody can be that happy. Well, fuck you. Now, and I stand in that now. But fuck you, because
That's your shirt.
Hello?
it is.
Fucking on the back.
You.
Thank you.
That's it's trademark. But no, like, and that's because they weren't happy. They didn't know how to be happy. They didn't know how to find their happiness, and they were in a dark place. So the only way that they know how to be happy is to turn my light down.
Misery loves company.
Wow.
Misery loves company.
That's the thing.
Will.
It can scare a lot of people because it's not attainable for them.
Right.
They feel like
They feel like
because they don't know how to get to that.
Yeah.
Right? Because girl, I wake up feeling that every day.
Right. Don't deprive me.
That don't mean I am.
Hello?
And that means it can be worked on.
Hello.
Bro.
Be like him.
Pick up this.
You don't wake up that girl.
No, I said I would be like him. I
I know the hand raise. I ain't gonna tell him.
He got your hand when you got on the
But if I feel you better sit.
right?
Go ahead.
The initial question was, what is happiness to you? I guess I've been trying to figure that out amidst the conversation to realize what my answer to that would be. Happiness to me is the ability to make a decision at any given moment. So if somebody comes to me and says I'm a skinny bitch, that's fine. I'm happy.
Right. Boom.
Hello.
I can relate.
Let's
keep it.
Love theory. Love piece. Look, on the low.
That's fine.
But it's every single moment where you can decide whether or not I'm going to respond positively, and
That's so
take that
true.
from me. That's my definition.
Oh my God, where's the collection lady?
I love that.
That's good.
I go through regular. Always depends on the Scorpio with some low key shade. Yes.
They don't do that, love.
Right there. Real right next to you. It was real
Right
next to
there.
your Look to your
But
neighbor.
that's it, like, people say that all the time, like, when you present yourself in a positive light, always, trying to, they just fake positive, this, that, and the third.
Story of my
Nigga,
life.
this is what it is, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have no reason to walk around with a negative cloud over my head, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I always seek the positive, whatever the situation is.
The great icon, Noxema Jackson said, one of the steps to true queeniness is to ignore adversity.
Come on.
Come on, you
And I'm gonna leave it
want
at that. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
I swear I didn't even want you to say I'm gonna leave it at that. I wanted you to make the woman the turn around.
No, he got to flip his head.
Yeah.
You can do that all
Right. Okay, so let's read some comments real quick. Okay, so Robin said,
It's always happening.
that's what I learned. I didn't need one. It's all within already. It was a light bulb and confirmation combo. It was worth it for me. I was married 22 with a 2-year-old. It was money well spent for me to this day. Therapy, okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Chris said, share it, Raybo. You got me over here clapping. Good answer. Then he said, y'all speaking today. Then he said, happiness is how I make myself feel, and it's not based on anyone or anything. That's the ultimate happiness.
Yes,
You plateau to joy.
Yeah.
You enjoy.
Okay. So, next question is, with this being Black, queer, and unapologetic, and ooh, never mind, because with the person who I'm sitting next to, I want to ask this question.
What's up?
What's the tea? I'm trying to figure out.
You had to pay
I'm
me
feeling
attention.
different for you. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm your buffer.
To your point,
Because we all know you. I said that was.
Kiki, Black, queer, unapologetic.
Right.
That was the good. That was right. You better bring it back around. We heal. That's not the point. I'm gonna come in and.
What's up?
What does softness look like for you?
Softness.
Silence.
So soft and it looks like silence.
Yes, my name.
You know, but so I've been in a space for a few years now, like really unpacking what softness looks like and what it means. In particular, this idea of radical softness, because we live in a world where, in terms of softness, we equate it to being able to show emotion. We equate it to what it means to be feminine. So instantly, that means we give it to white men. And so I've just been in this space of, as a Black man, as a Black queer man, what does it mean? What does it look like to be soft? And for me, the things that I just mentioned, being vulnerable, being connected to whatever my emotions mean, and not just the emotions in terms of what we're talking about, happiness, in terms of joy, but also when I'm angry as shit, when I need to break down and cry, when my anxiety is on fleek, when my depression is very real, being able to feel all of those emotions. And then also being able to exist in a space where I can show my femininity and whatever that looks like to me. So like that's been the space I've just been really interested in, and taking this word, which is not synonymous, or rather given to Blackness, and giving to individuals who present with masculine energy, but taking all of that softness, taking my every emotion that I have, taking the feminine energy that I can exist in, and being able to show that, and because I believe that radical softness is a very real and necessary way to, for me, combat toxic masculinity, and to combat these ideals of what Blackness should look like, of what queerness should look like, and for me is also a very fluid thing as well.
Child, that's the whole college course. This church neck going on. It's like I thought the word. It was like,
Can I say something?
yeah.
Okay. I grew up in well, as I described before, I grew up in a household where softness was, for a man, was the wrong way to go about things. I grew up, like we discussed before, like how Steve Harvey feels this hyper masculine thing has to be a thing. And I'm just like, no, it doesn't have to be. You know, I think everybody has softness within them. You know, you see football players cry. You know, you see the strongest of the strongest. You know, we're human. You know,
To be soft is to be strong.
Hello. Softness to me. Yes, right. Indeed. You know, softness to me, that's my tranquility. That's my serenity. You know, when I'm able to just be me, you know, to me, that's my softness. I have no more to say.
Vulnerability is my word. When you just allow yourself just to be open and like, open.
It's libation now.
But you know what
Yes,
I'm
libation.
Libations, get yourself. When you allow yourself, you open yourself up for criticism, you open yourself up for just whatever strong man you felt on the inside, you let that go.
I'm sorry.
You're libation.
It's right, is your libation kicking in?
Not even close.
Not even close.
You know.
But for me, that's softness when I allow myself to get in that space where I'm letting go of, I'm not the strong dude right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, you know, I'm open to just whatever because I'm grateful. What was that? Sign language.
If I don't have the words, but I have the feeling.
That's it.
Yeah. I wrote that way.
He gave Tina Turner like this.
River deep, mountain high. I was so good. All right, I'm gonna get these out.
There's a reason why you need to get to the
Okay.
Listen.
What I was
Name
going to
Brandon.
say, for me, and this, I'm appalled because I want to make sure I properly articulate it, or at least get it out of my head in the way that y'all can understand.
I understood that.
We
There was
smart.
nothing wrong with that. There was nothing wrong.
Right, well, because I'm going on a whole tangent, and this is like, what the fuck is Randy talking about? Softness for me, in a somewhat simplified version, is me deconstructing and stripping myself of things that society has made me be hard for. Just like whatever society, whatever I got culture's definition of like being a man is, or masculinity, or like how I felt like I should present. Very how it was when you met me some odd years ago when people couldn't figure out if I was fucking gay or not. And like that not really being who I am, because like this is all of me, like I'm a whole ass bitch queen, but like the world has made me. The world like years ago had made me like not embrace like who I am. It was very much like what's up, all of that. Like even in trying to like embrace who I was. So like for me, softness is like I'm not gonna let anything I'm not gonna let any outside forces dictate how I am and how I operate. And also making sure that I do what I can to protect and this is gonna sound corny because I don't like using the word, but my essence, the essence of who I am. Yeah.
I like it.
That doesn't sound corny. That's beautiful.
That was the short version.
That was the short version. That was the short version. That was the short version.
Okay,
So
so
I just also want to add, because this is popping to my mind. One, softness is survival, but then also being very real and understanding the world that we live in terms of being Black queer folks. In order to survive, we need to understand the world that we live in the spaces that we're in as well. So with that being said, like there are times when I actually really need to kind of unpack and think about my softness and am I okay to be soft in this space? Because sometimes as I present myself as unapologetically me as I possibly can be, there are times and moments when I may not be able to be the fullness of myself, just in terms of being able to survive to see the next second, not just the next second. So yes, we're talking about softness, how important it is to be soft, but it's also very important to survive and figuring out what survival looks like for you and with every given moment. It can change moment to moment. It's not one day.
well,
With
listen.
emphasis on fullness.
Listen.
I like that.
Listen, so Donye has just given the opening to what my last question was going to be. He opened that up beautifully. Okay, so wait, because there's another comment.
Total exposure is softness for me.
This is like Coach Team here.
Robin Seaborn says, total exposure is softness for me. I love that my Scorpio has the duality. his touch, his care, and consideration of my duality. I love that he's strong enough to be soft. I say.
Ashe.
Yeah.
What is Ashe?
I mean, that's,
Yeah, I
I
said.
don't know what that means.
Ashe. I've heard that before. What does that mean?
Listen.
Yeah.
Ashe means.
Praise.
I was about to say, what's the pop culture? What is that?
No.
Well, Ashe is a pop culture.
That's
We're gonna,
what it says.
Ashe, so we're gonna keep it at amen. That's the easiest way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ashe.
I thought it was along the lines of like
In a way. Yeah, in a way.
Oh,
There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Thank you.
We're just discussing I share.
Yes, you're right.
So-
Somebody's gonna chime in on the comments.
Okay,
And so it is.
So the question is, the final question. What does being Black, queer, and unapologetic mean to you?
why did you chuckle?
I'll say this, and this isn't necessarily coming from my personal, although it fits into it. I just want to commend like and it's not even like no. So I'll say this, and hopefully the intention comes across correctly and honestly. I commend everybody who lives in their truth, because I can only imagine. And like, granted, I'm very aware of the privilege that I have because I'm just a cis little butch queen. But like, I really appreciate and love, and like also I want to like praise and do the best that I can with whatever I can to support people who can like literally like walk in their truth, because I know how hard it can be to like be yourself in this fucked up cool ass world, although it can also be beautiful. So like it's partly that, it's mainly that, but I think it's also just understanding and appreciating that I'm you, I'm me, you are you, we are us. But this is when I'm like, I pause. Like the differences and the similar. I think it was like that corny Android like advertisement when like different but the same, like that little shit, whatever that was, like that. Like Black, queer, unapologetic is like, I got my thing, you got your thing, we exist in this whole ecosystem together, let's do whatever the fuck we can.
Come on,
Like us doing whatever we can to sustain like our ecosystem. Boom.
Bam.
Yeah, anybody else?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
What does it mean to be Black, queer, and unapologetic?
Yes, please.
Yes, share it with someone else.
I'm
So to me, this is that. Being able to share our stories, being able to share it and have somebody else feel empowered by it. Because we can be ourselves, we can express ourselves anyway and not be hell bent or hell bound, whatever the word I'm trying to phrase on this word, by what somebody else thinks and feel we should act like. So yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, the hypermasculinity thing, it cannot be a thing for too long. Come on, people, talking to that.
It's the
I feel like it's the complete opposite of hypermasculinity. It's you realizing that even as a man, you can have that softness, you can have.
No, I was actually going against it. I was going against it, because if you walk past a guy on the street and he's just like, he's looking at you, weirdly,
He like
and you make that eye
Come on, you need to teach us.
you make that eye contact with him, and he sees that you're strong, but you're still a gay man, he sees that as empowerment, and it's also intimidating to him. So he doesn't know how to react to that, But if you cower down and you let him see that you're a quote unquote weak bitch, he's gonna be like, he's gonna attack it, kind of like a dog does, A dog is gonna go for the weakness. A dog is gonna go for your ankles if you keep running. But if you turn around to that dog and face that dog like, look, bitch, I'm not gonna be kicking your face.
Are you saying that you relate softness to femininity, period?
I was chiming in on what it is that y'all was talking about. So
That's what we're taught though. So I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing to do that. We're just taught that femininity is wrong. So I think it's
For
a way of
For
solving
us, I mean, for men.
in general, normally, because even sometimes when women are feminine or too feminine, too emotional, it's like it's only because you are a boy.
Oh my God, that's so deep.
There are some women. There are some women.
It's also really sad.
Yeah, but see, the same thing can go for a woman who plays sports. You know, it's like, oh, you're too masculine, so you're like, or you're a lesbian. You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
Lesbian. And let's not be offensive. But I'm just saying that's how they look at it. You know, like Mia Hamm, for instance. You know, she was saying that people have said it about her. You know, and it's like, wow. Do we have to be confined to a certain level of either femininity, like you were saying, Danye, to like the hypermasculinity, like what I was saying about Steve Harvey and how he feels. The older generation, God forgive me for saying this, but that generation is dying off. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. You know, so I'm just like,
We all die.
it's a new age where being homosexual or being whatever it is, a part of the LGBT community, it's being accepted more. You know, it should have been back in the day, but I don't even want to delve into that. That's a completely different. Let's talk about that later on. I'm just saying. People, and the key word I said earlier is confined. You know, when you confine yourself, I forget who said that earlier. I don't know if it was you, Sean, or you, Brandon. But somebody said something about being in that box. You know, it'll keep you there mentally. You know what I mean? If you're there mentally, it's going to have you there, and then it's going to deprive you of your happiness that you wish to seek. You know, and then you won't have that joy that you spoke of, Raven, earlier. You know what I mean? And you won't wake up with that in your heart. You know, you're going to be mad and angry and all sorts of stuff, and you're going to feel like, oh, okay, you know what? Damn, I'm going to take this out in the world today. You know what I mean? Like, what can I do or what can I say? I'm going to be miserable. You know, misery loves company. You don't want to be a part of that. You know, so if everybody were to think the same way and everybody were to carry out that, within the same realm, I think this world will be a much better place. You know.
I just want to
Is that what? Wait a minute.
My nation.
Is that what the black queer and unapologetic means to you?
No.
That was a comment.
But
No,
if I go into that, it's going to be a whole nother 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Can I go inside here really quick? I try to make this my mission to say this in every space, every public space that I'm in. And this isn't to say that we aren't doing this. I'm just saying because y'all are here, and not only y'all, and I know separate degrees of separation and how the ripples work and the people that are watching. Let's make sure we make space for everybody. Make space for everybody. And I'm just like, y'all know what that means, and I'll leave it at that.
I want to be, because I want to say this, and I want to be 100% specific, because to say y'all know what I mean, we may not know exactly what you mean. So when we say make space, I can only assume that this is a room of cisgender men, but I want to make sure we make space for not just that, but we make space for transgender, we make space for gender non-conforming, we make space for gender non-binary,
for queer women,
we make space for the disabled, we make space for so many individuals, and so for me to go to your question of what does it mean to be Black, queer, and unapologetic, I actually instantly think of, I remember hearing a quote before from, I believe, a writer and activist, Beverly Shefdolf, which is Blackness is inherently queer. So it makes me instantly think of to exist in your fullness of your Blackness and in your queerness, then you are being unapologetic. Whatever that means to you, being 100% transparent. If that means you're up there with your fist in the air shouting like Black Lives Matter, and that is what is your blackness and then your queerness, and that's exactly what it means. Even if it means that you are doing your thing, and I'll be 100% transparent, like scamming the system and on welfare and doing those things, like that is if that is literally how you get by and survive, because we talked about survival, then that is you existing in the fullness of your blackness and in your queerness. But at the end of the day, it is being exactly who you are and in the fullness of yourself, and knowing that when we talk about the LGBTQ spectrum, not leaving out any individual within the spectrum.
Oh
So
my
that's what it
God.
means.
I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
maybe not so eloquently, but I was gonna mention the spectrum. Wherever you follow that, you have to be comfortable in that. And you also have to be accepting of other people where they are in the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't eloquently verbalize it like you did.
But that come true.
Because of this damn libation.
Libation.
I can't think.
Okay, so, oh, wait. What are y'all comments? Because we'll read off a few more comments before we come to the end. Thank you. Okay, so,
You're all up to date. We've been doing the job. They're just in agreement.
You got like several correspondents here.
Look, we
Wow,
like liking my comments.
That was so funny.
We doing it. We got
That okay, disappointment.
It did.
Oh.
yeah. Okay, Robin said, I love hearing you speak. I'm going to assume that was Danye.
Yes.
Me too.
Right.
Mind you, I'm all linked up, like, y'all don't even see me.
Let me scoot
I'm
in.
gonna say the energy that you project or give off is so strong and bright, and you may not even know it, but it is there, and it's, you walk in your power, and it's incredible.
You pop it. Creating a space.
You pop it.
Seriously.
So that right there is the perfect place to end this, because that's what it's all about. It's all about being able to show up for each other, you know? He was able to show that love and acceptance unapologetically, you know? So that's the perfect place to end for me. Because I want more of that. I want more of that. Especially somebody living down here in Atlanta. I want more of that. I want more of us who are black and queer down here in Atlanta, and every city you're in. Showing up for each other unapologetically. Being able to compliment and show each other love without having any hesitancy, without us having to feel like we're in competition with one another. It's all love. It's all love. Because when one of us succeeds, we all succeed. You feel me? So with that being said, everyone
I'm sorry. Lynn said we need an accredited class from the guy on the left, Danye. The people have spoken if there isn't already.
Speaking.
Come through, y'all.
Speaking.
So if people want to walk with you, where would they be able to walk with you on social media?
Brandon Nick on all social medias. BRAND. Yeah. Well, yeah. Brandon Nick, Instagram and Twitter. I'm on Facebook, but I hardly use it. So.
Just Brandon?
Brandon Nick.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I'm like, wait.
How did you get that?
Popping.
Wow.
The O is zero. Like, hey.
Is it two N's or just one?
Two.
So Brandon Nick.
Brandon Nick.
That was important for people to know.
Yes, clarity.
Look, enunciate your T's.
You know what? You better get out.
Next.
I can't stand street.
I am Canady. You can find me on all social medias as that, as is. So I am CANADE. Yeah.
Well, if you're looking for me, and the bartender of the evening, you can find me across Facebook, Instagram. I think that's it. Libation, li.va.tion, libation.
Oh, it's me. Oh, okay. Damn, libation. You can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat.
I love it. Come on, this accent. Come on.
Man,
Okay. Sure.
Manny Queso.
Oh, you good?
In honor of Aretha Franklin.
Oh, okay. That's what it came. Okay.
That was Aretha Franklin.
Queen of Soul.
I was channeling.
How?
Come on. Just go with it. Just go with it. Just go with it. Manny K. Soul. MANNY, the letter K. SOUL. All of it. All of it. All of it. I love y'all so much.
All of
Thank
it.
y'all for tuning in. Thank you.
You trying to say yeah?
Hello.
You have a closing remark.
Yes, I love
Closing
remarks.
I live.
Oh shit! I thought he was still going.
No.
All right, mine is simple. Mine is Christopher Lee. Christopher spelled the regular way. Lee spelled the regular way.
What's the regular way? People spell it up.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on, is that when the secret is
Christopher Lee on what
Let's
social
see.
media platform?
He's not the regular.
On Facebook. No, I'm sorry, Christopher Lee on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm rarely on social media, but yes, that's the best way to do it.
This back
You're
row.
right.
The whole back row.
I can't with you. I am Donnie Love on Donnie DONJA Love on Facebook, and I think that's the same on Twitter. I'm only looking at him because he made my Twitter for me.
Oh, that's so
So
sweet.
Donnie DONJA Love on Facebook and Twitter. On Instagram, Donnie Rakeem Love. But if you type in DONJA Love, it'll come up.
Hello. You can walk with me at Scorpioki across all social media platforms. The Healing Space on Twitter is _THS Podcast, and on Instagram at THS Podcast.
Strong as teas though.
I live on the station addiction.
That Mason Dixon.
Get it.
Mason Dixon line me.
Get it.
Whoa.
Okay.
That's not
I am you was thinking something else too. All right, let's be clear. We all in touch and agree. I was good. All right.
The West Wing is like, what's happening? The West Wing is like, what's going on?
That's how we ended.
Keep listening.
The space is open for all.
Mason Dixon line.
Dixon line, but the way he worked
With how he
Mason
started. Because
Right.
at all, and then
I can't.
no, I heard all sentence.
All I heard was-
I heard all sentence.
All I heard was,
Give him walk out.
we talked about respecting and honoring the fullness of everybody. So let's get it.
whatever you like.
Right, whatever you like.
You can walk with me. That was that look was right. Okay. Twitter, Instagram, just call me Otis. You can also thspodcast.com. You can say that one.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Indeed. You can also you can also find us on Overcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts.
I love them saying the same ones exactly.
And wherever else
Y'all used to this. Y'all used to this. What's up?
And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're not. If you're watching this on YouTube, we thank you. Thank all of you so much who are watching on Facebook. We're gonna make sure we're posting this and join us for the next episode, which will be absolutely. It's our sponsor. Make sure that if you're here in Atlanta, you get phenomenal. Thank you so much for being our new sponsor, Sean. We greatly appreciate that. So make sure that you go to www.thspodcast to listen to all past episodes, as well as the next episode, Black, Queer, and Unapologetic 5. 5. Until next time, we love you all so much, and namaste. Now the awkward part where I say that, I gotta walk up
It's
to you and
fine.
come
It's
up
fine.
again.
They're still here.
Right.
What?
Gracefully.
Right?
Gracefully.
You got class.
I can't.
Okay.
You know what?
Ah, there you go.